Okay, I have 3 little panels here. I think they're 2 by 2. Tiny little canvases, and I don't normally paint this small, so this is going to be a challenge. But I thought I would do some little paintings on them. These would be fun if you had like a little dollhouse or something. You could paint little pictures. I'm not going to do anything that detailed. I thought I would do some fruit. I thought I would do some cherries, some oranges, or an orange, and some raspberries. So there's that. So here we go. Okay, so I start off with painting the backgrounds. I'm using the golden open acrylic. It's slow drying acrylic paint for this. So I did an olive green, a blue, and then I did sort of a aqua turquoisey kind of greenish blue. I guess it looks more green. And then I drew the outlines on with pastel pencil. I painted white on top of the outlines so that I could just paint the reds and the pinks and the oranges directly on top, so it wouldn't be sinking into the darker backgrounds. I don't know. I guess I could have done the fruit first and then painted around it, but I think it's easier to do it this way, at least for me. I kind of wish I had chosen a different fruit. Actually, I kind of wish I hadn't done the raspberries. I like the orange, I like the cherries. The raspberries were probably my least favorite of the 3. But because 2 of them had a green background and a pinkish reddish fruit on them, I kind of wanted something a little different. But like maybe I could have done like a purple background with a banana on it or something like that. But anyway, I had to try to find something that would fill up the space of this tiny little canvas. And so berries were a good choice, I guess. This one, the orange, was the favorite of mine, of the 3. I guess, well, orange is my favorite color, so it's hard to deny that. I don't know. I like the way it came out, even though it was tiny. I wish I could have gotten a little more detail. I tend to be a little more into details, but it was hard to do on this tiny little canvas. I think if I was doing it on a large canvas, I would have gotten more the result I wanted, but I kind of wanted the challenge of trying to work really small. I ended up using a number 2 round small brush to work on these. It seemed to do the trick. It was tiny enough and pointy enough where I could get some details in without, you know, still able to cover like a large area if I needed to. So. This one I think would have done much better if I had done it on a larger canvas, just because there were a lot more details in the raspberry than in the cherry and the orange. I mean, there was details on the orange, like the cut slice of it where you could see the lines, but the cherries were very cut and dry, but the raspberries have so many shapes, so many lines, that it was the most difficult, I think, to do on a small canvas of the 3. I ended up changing this reddish pinkish color later on. I used the same magenta color when I did the raspberries, but I redid the cherries with alizarin crimson to make sort of just a richer, redder color. And I wanted it to be look a little bit different from the raspberries because they both had the green background, they both had the magenta, and I wanted them to at least be somewhat different. So I went in here and I did a little bit of shadow under the cherries, under the raspberries, and I guess, yeah, a little bit under the orange. And I did, on that back orange, I added some darker color to give it some depth. Okay, so now we're on to session 2. I did a little bit on all 3, and then I kind of put them aside for a bit. I was a little bit frustrated with the raspberries because I couldn't really get the look I wanted. And I was working from a black and white picture, what was the other thing. So I ended up going on and just finding a color photo so I could kind of work from that to get the shadows right. I did like working with this paint, though. This was the first time I really used it. And it reminds me of fast drying oil. And I have the golden fast dry oil as well. It's like oil is too slow and acrylic is too fast. So you kind of want something in between. But yeah, I did kind of like it. So I was able to work a little bit, and then I put it aside for it to dry. And it ended up working out fine because I did have to go back with this raspberries painting. I really kind of struggled for a while. I did it a couple of different ways. And it came out okay. It just wasn't my favorite of the 3. Normally I'd be able to shadow something a little easier, but it seemed like every tiny little circle had to be, shadowed and colored in 3 or 4 different ways. So I think that's what made it a little rough on me. I was still able to get a light, a medium, and a dark, but yeah, it took a while. And that's pretty much the secret. If you're painting, if the subject is looking flat, is to add sort of more extreme lights and more extreme darks. I mean, you do need sort of a range to make it come alive, to make it look realistic, but adding some darks in there really does help. Adding some really bright highlights helps too. See, I noticed right there on the corner, I don't know what I did. I messed it up. I got some paint on it or something, so I just had to mix the one that the one background color that I mixed. That's the one I had to mess up. So I had to mix that again and cover it up, and worked again on highlights and putting darks and shadows. And this one was a piece of work, I guess. So I finally, after this point, I just decided it was as done as it was going to be, and I moved on to the cherries, which is coming up. Here's where I added the alizarin crimson on top of the magenta that I had been using. I think it ended up looking a lot better to me. I think the red of this and the green of the background ended up working better together than the magenta and that green. Yeah, that was the one thing I didn't anticipate was the green stems and the green background. So I had to sort of work in some darks and lights right on the edges so they would stand out a little bit. I actually like this style. I'm not normally like a real painterly style kind of painter, but because it was small, I didn't have too much of a choice. I did like the way this ended up looking. So at least there's that. Okay, and these are all 3 of the tiny canvases in their finished form. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have a favorite, let me know. If you have a least favorite, let me know. And thanks for watching. Please come back and watch again.